Hey everybody, Dylan Distraction here, coming to you live from Patlantic Studios. Thought I'd do a quick back to the drawing board, talk about comic books, show you on my drawing table versus 3-issue miniseries coming soon. I don't know where it's gonna, probably to makecomicscool.com, my Patreon. I'll probably just send it out to my patrons. Yeah, thank you so much to everybody for liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, thumbs up here on my YouTube channel, DylanDistraction.com. The place, the drama-free zone. If you like comic books and hate drama, welcome to my YouTube channel. I talk about comic books and things I'm excited about. What do you want to talk about now? X-Force. So, I was just in a antique store, funny enough, and saw a bunch of X-Force books, X-Force comics, as we've all seen. They're in dollar bins across the world. Definitely a lot of copies of that X-Force floating around. And it kind of struck me like, oh, this is an antique. It's like, oh no. What? Really? Okay. It was a little odd. I mean, I've seen them in comic book stores, and you go into antique stores and you expect there to be like vintage things, like old stuff. And I'm like, oh, these are like 35 years old. These are old. And so that was a little odd. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that. It's kind of like going in to an antique store and seeing a cell phone, and you're like, what? A BlackBerry? Like, that's an antique? So maybe it's more of a junk store. But still, I mean, come on. It's not like this is from the Civil War. It's a comic book from it feels like not that long ago. But it was a while ago. So hopefully everybody else gets to experience the joy of that. It reminds me of the Back to the Future, where he gets the it's not an omnibus. He gets what's it called? The sports thing. Oh, that's gonna bother me. In the comments, please tell me what that thing is that Marty McFly gets in Back to the Future. Almanac. It's an almanac. You can still say it in the comments, but it's almanac. Gets an almanac talking about all the sports things that haven't happened yet, you know. And you look in that store and there's like, I think there's like Nikes and you know, product placement, old cans of Pepsi. But we're at that point now. It's like, oh no, the things I like are in an antique store. What? That seems, am I that out of, I'm not that out of touch, right everybody? I'm cool. I'm still cool. Probably a little out of touch. So, but whatever. I mean, you know, that's just kind of the way things go. It's everything going forward and doing new stuff and different and better and different. But man, I was just rereading those old X-Forces, and I'm like, because I bought them, I'm like, well, I got to get these. I have them, but why not get more of them? And yeah, there's just an energy and an enthusiasm and an excitement, and it's all pretty quick. Stories all just kind of, there's always some action and some drama, and characters are always kind of just trying to be awesome. Like, everybody's just cool and exciting. So I try to pull that sort of energy. I'm like, I need some of that juice. Not that I'm burned out on creating comic books, but you got to keep filling that tank. You know, you got to keep working, keep being excited, keep making stuff. And the way to do that is to keep finding stuff that inspires you. And as silly as it might be, looking at Rob Liefeld, Craig Capullo, X-Force issues makes me go, oh yeah, it makes me want to draw stuff. Just like it did when I was a wee lad. And yeah, X-Files is awesome too. I think I've seen every episode of X-Files. I kind of made it my mission for a while there, because I think it's at like 9 seasons and a couple bonus seasons that were more recent. But that first 9 seasons, although inconsistent, always entertaining. I never skipped through an episode and was like, no. They always kind of had that formula, like sometimes it'll be Creature of the Week, sometimes it'll be overarching story that's a little convoluted. I always have a tough time following what was going on, because I was like, who is this? Where are they? What? Because as it felt like they were making it up as they were going along. Like there's a lot of like Mulder's sister getting taken and by aliens, and then at some point they're just like, yeah, she's gone forever. It's like, we're never gonna, or maybe she's not, and then you'd be like, oh, she's back. Like, no, she's gone forever. Like, oh, okay, or maybe she's not. No, she's gone. Okay. So there's a lot of that sort of back and forth, making it up as they go along. Man, I appreciate that because, yeah, aren't we all just kind of making it up as we go along? Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. I remember, so they did a bonus season. I don't know if it was a whole season. There's a few episodes. And at the end of that, they're like, you know what? This is a great way to go out. Blow them all up with a spaceship on a bridge. They're in a car. I believe this is how it goes. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. They're like, you know what? We've run our course. Blow them all up. Let's end this. Spaceship, bridge, explosion, dead. And then I think the reviews came in, or and they're like, oh wow, people really loved this season, this mini season. And it's like, well, what are we gonna do? We blew them all up. It was the end. We killed them all on a bridge. Like, blew them all up on a spaceship. And they're like, it was a dream. I'm like, oh great, okay. So then they're like, going back to the well again. And at that point, I was like, okay, nothing matters. This show's is a little convoluted. It's a lot convoluted. And yeah, I get it. And then I think the woman who plays Scully was like, I'm done. Don't call me. I'm doing The Crown. So, pretty interesting. I love that show. That's one of those shows you could just put on and watch. I never got into like Breaking Bad, which a lot of people love and they say I should watch, but I just haven't gotten into it. And I never got into just a lot of shows I haven't seen. So if you're like, oh, have you seen this show? I probably haven't. But I've watched every episode of X-Files. And I can remember none of it. I retain very little that I see. Comic books, movies. I don't know why that is, but I definitely don't. It doesn't stay with me. Like, it's even the stuff I create myself. I constantly have to go back and reread. Be like, wait a second, what was this guy? Where did I leave off? What's going on? So I'm always kind of constantly doing that sort of, or trying to remember things, just kind of how my brain works. So, but it's all kind of familiar. Like, I see images from X-Files, I read comic books, and you're like, oh yeah, that was that thing. Yeah, okay. It's like a dream. It's like everything happens in this sort of weird, foggy dream. So, if anybody else is like that, comment below. So yeah, I'm not really talking about what's going on in this series. This is just the kind of intro development story stuff. And so you got to read it. So go to makecomicscool.com and I will be sharing it there and mailing it out to people there, I think. I'll just send it out to people that sign up for my Patreon. So do that. makecomicscool.com. I don't know if I'm going to be doing crowdfunding much this next year, or I don't know. Maybe. Did a few this year and they went fine. I was able to get my work out to people and cover the cost of printing, but haven't been able to really hit big numbers, which is, you know, it is what it is. So it'd be great to, you know, do big numbers and push a lot of units, but that is, there's challenges associated with that. Like if you hit and you have a lot of people that, you know, hundreds of backers, that can take months to fulfill. And so having small Kickstarters or Zoops or Indiegogos or whatever's, that makes sense to me because that's what I do. So I'm used to that fulfillment cycle where it takes you a week, you know, you send out stuff, do a couple commissions and move on to the next thing. I don't know what it would be like to be like, to hit a huge number. I see my friends hitting, hundreds of backers, and you're like, oh my God, that's great. But man, people that don't know, that's not all profit. It's not like you get all that reward backer money and just go, okay, thanks, see ya. That means you gotta fulfill all those things. And those really complex campaigns with like multiple reward tiers and multiple add-ons and people that don't know or don't do it, they might not understand. But I've done and seen a lot of campaigns, and it's like, oh, that's the next year of your life doing fulfillment for that, which is great. Good to be popular for sure. I mean, I would love to try it. Be cool to hit big with something and have it catch on. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's versus this 3-issue mini. That'd be cool. I'd like that. Maybe with your help, this will be the hot thing that people go, oh man, Dylan Distraction, have you seen the new Versus mini series he just did? Oh wow. He is doing creator-owned comic books right. He is making friends and spreading the love. Spreading the love, baby. So yeah, Shark Boy, my sidekick Shark Boy is taking a nap. So I know he's the reason people tune in. I mean, it's still in Distraction and Shark Boy, Baby Bear. But the Dylan Distraction and Mini Me show is hard because he doesn't love sitting still. Just wants to go. Gotta be moving. But he's the best. So yeah, I hope wherever you are, living your best life, filling your life with things you love and enjoy, having an awesome day. Thank you so much for watching as I draw this spread. So you see here the blue lines. That's indicating this is a spread. 2-page spread. I do a lot of 2-page spreads because so again, getting back to Rob Liefeld and X-Force and that sort of 90s nostalgia, people wonder, like, where did that shift happen? Like, why did comic books go from the 80s look to the 90s look? Like, what is it about those 2 decades that just, if you put 2 comic books next to each other, they look so different? And I have my theories. So I'll tell you. In the 80s, there was a lot of editorial mandate and requirements that you show full figure characters and on every page. And that was just how style. You just have, like, of course, you want to reevaluate the background, and you'd want to reestablish the character in space, and you'd want to have full figure shots of the character. But we're talking 7-panel pages. So full figure shot on one or multiple pages, or one or multiple panels on a page. If you have a 7-panel page, that's a lot of little figures. And those pages are less valuable, less on the art market. People see those and they go, I'd rather have the cover. Bigger character image. I don't have to have these little tiny images of Spider-Man. I can have a big shot of Spider-Man. So I'd pay more for the covers. The covers were very valuable, but those interior transitional pages, Spider-Man walking to a bank, Spider-Man seeing bad guys, Spider-Man blah, 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 changing into his costume, putting his camera up in the corner of a building. Those pages weren't as very valuable. They didn't sell for much. As the 90s hit, artists realized, like, oh man, I could go to a convention, because conventions are really popping off now. They're getting bigger and more popular, and I can sell my covers for quite a bit of money. But what is it about the covers that people really are attracted to? And you go, oh, well, the cover artwork has a bigger image of a character, usually in costume and usually in an action pose. And so you're like, okay, well, why don't I just take the aesthetic of a cover image and put it in the interiors of the comic book? Bigger character image, which means less panels. Action pose in costume, which means maybe the storytelling elements are less established. right? The backgrounds become less important, the environments become less important, because it's really just a framing device for that big hero shot image. And then that is an original piece of art, an interior page I can sell for the same amount as a cover page. So artists like Rob Liefeld, who's no dummy, quickly figured out, like, oh, if I have Cable big on this page, that will sell for as much as a cover. And then they realized, and you see him really take advantage of it in that Captain America run he did, the Heroes Reborn, that, oh, if I have 2-page spreads in original art, they don't just buy the page 16, they'll buy 16 and 17, or 2 and 3. So then I'm selling 2 covers essentially for not that much more work. So you see in that Captain America issue, and again, this is all just me theorizing. I don't have any sort of insider information, just telling you how I would do it. So then you have Captain America in costume, hero shot, full figure, frame, the environment's just to frame the action. You can sell that interior 2-page spread for the price of 2 covers at a convention. So next time you look at art, realize a lot of those decisions were made, as artistically, but also financially. And I think it's kind of important to see that, because these are guys that are drawing at a drawing table every day, trying to figure out, like, geez, how do I make some money on this so I can keep doing this? And that's like me now with doing digital work. So people are like, well, you're missing out on original art sales. It's like, right, but I don't know if there is a market for my original art. And so if I'm able to draw digitally, like I'd like to do like a hybrid. So it's like, okay, if I draw this digitally, I could draw a cover traditionally, ink it digitally, or be able to kind of have a hybrid technique where I can do the best of both. And right now, I love original art. I think it's great, but I don't really collect it. I have some, but it's just so expensive. There's all the original art that I'm a fan of, like thousands of dollars. And so, because all the artists I love are, 90s, 80s artists. And so a lot of the current modern artists are all drawing digitally, and it's like, well, because they have to. Like, you have to be able to churn out a lot of pages. Like, you're on the clock. And so anything you can do to speed up that process, digital, I think, and as we've seen here, as I'm drawing this 2-page spread, there's a lot of things I can do digitally to make the drawing process just a little bit more efficient, right? Like, just tapping this to get an eraser. It's like, oh yeah, that's fast. Like, I don't have to go and get an eraser. Like, I'm just using the same tool. Even just that. People, like the idea of not having to switch from a pencil to a pen, to an eraser, to a pencil, to a sharpener, to a pencil. It's like, nope, it's all this one thing. Saves me moments. And those moments add up. I heard Todd McFarlane once say he's drawing in blue line. And he's like, I was drawing in blue line and then inking over the blue line. He says, because I would have to erase pencils. If I'm inking myself, I'm erasing pencils. Takes me, 15, half hour, maybe an hour to erase pencils. He's like, that's 22 pages. It's like 22 hours. It's like, it's a whole day just erasing. And you're like, oh yeah, no. He's like, if I use blue line, that much faster. Comic book artists have always tried to figure out how do I make this more efficient? Jack Kirby drawing however many pages a day. There's some estimates and rumors. It's like he's doing 20 pages a day. You do an entire comic book in a day or a weekend. or half a comic in a day. And you're like, Jesus. But you look at his work and you're like, oh yeah, no, the guy just had efficiencies, right? He's not laboring over anatomy. He's not laboring over reference. He's starting in the top left and drawing until the bottom right, taking that page, setting it aside, photocopying it or mailing it out on FedEx, and then just going on to the next page. And that's how you create a body of work. That's how you level up, because the more time you get the pencil moving, the better you're going to get, just because you just get more efficient. So, thank you so much for watching. DylanDistracted.com. That's my YouTube channel. Make comics cool. That's my Patreon, Dylan Andrews Art. If you want to see more examples of my work. Versus 3-issue miniseries coming soon. Thank you so much to everybody for watching, liking, thumbs upping, subscribing, sharing. Okay, thanks. Bye.